Have you ever wondered why some people can eat a tiny amount of protein and look strong, vibrant, and full of energy, while others force down dry chicken breasts and plain Greek yogurt every single day, only to watch their hair thin out and their nails peel? You might think those vertical ridges on your fingernails, that extra clump of hair in the shower drain, and that heavy, sluggish feeling 2 hours after a meal are just a normal part of getting older. As a clinical dietitian, I am here to tell you, they usually aren't. They are a massive red flag from your stomach. If you are over 40 and eating a high-protein diet to try and stay strong, there is a very real chance you are literally flushing your grocery money down the toilet, because eating protein and actually absorbing protein are two completely different biological processes. I see this every single week in my clinical practice. Patients come to me frustrated, feeling like their bodies are actively betraying them despite doing everything right. My name is Dr. Sarah, and I am a clinical dietitian specializing in metabolic health, digestion, and proactive aging. Today, I am going to show you exactly why your healthy diet isn't reflecting in the mirror or in your daily energy levels. We are going to look at the hidden biological trap that stops your body from using the food you eat, and I am going to give you a simple, zero-cost daily protocol to unlock the expensive nutrients you are already putting on your plate. Before we go any further, I want you to do something for me. Take a quick look at your bare fingernails right now. Do you see vertical ridges running from the cuticle to the tip? Do you notice any peeling or splitting at the edges? Let me know in the comments below, because that's one of the very first physical signs I look for when a new patient sits down in my office. Let me introduce you to a patient I'll call Brenda. Brenda is a 56-year-old retired teacher from Grand Rapids, Michigan, and she was doing exactly what society and health magazines tell women her age to do. She was terrified of losing her muscle tone and ending up frail as she got older, so she made sure she was hitting her protein goals every single day like it was her job. She had eggs for breakfast, a grilled chicken salad for lunch, and a heavy serving of cottage cheese or Greek yogurt before bed. But Brenda came into my clinic completely defeated. She sat heavily in the chair, pulled back her hair to show me her widening part, and held out her hands to show me her brittle, paper-thin nails. She looked at me and said, "I am eating cleaner than I ever have in my entire life, but I feel incredibly weak. My hair is falling out in chunks every time I brush it, and I am exhausted all the time." Brenda thought her body was just giving up due to age. She thought her metabolism was broken. She was ready to buy expensive hair growth serums, handfuls of biotin gummies, and was even asking about hormone replacement therapy. But when I looked at her lab work and listened closely to her daily routine, the problem wasn't her age, and it certainly wasn't the quality of her diet. The problem was sitting right in the middle of her digestive tract. Brenda was dutifully chewing and swallowing over 100 grams of protein a day, but at a cellular level, she was absolutely starving. Here is what I explained to Brenda, and what I deeply want you to understand about how your own body works. To your central nervous system, your hair and your nails are luxury features. They are not essential for keeping your heart beating or your lungs breathing. Your hair is made almost entirely of a tough structural protein called keratin. But when you eat a piece of chicken or a hard-boiled egg, your body doesn't just plug that food directly into your hair follicles or your bicep muscles. It has to completely dismantle that food first. Think of a dietary protein molecule like a long, tightly locked, complicated metal zipper. In order for your body to use it, it has to physically unzip that molecule and break it down into tiny individual building blocks called amino acids. Only then can those single amino acids pass through your intestinal wall, enter your bloodstream, and be sent off to build new hair, repair your aging skin, and maintain your muscle mass. But here is the catch. You cannot unzip that protein zipper without a highly acidic, fiery environment. You need stomach acid. Specifically, you need a strong concentration of hydrochloric acid to activate an enzyme called pepsin, which does the actual cutting. When you are 20 years old, your stomach is basically a highly efficient acid bath. It effortlessly dissolves heavy meats, thick steaks, and dense proteins. But once you cross the age of 40, a quiet physiological shift happens. Your stomach's natural production of hydrochloric acid begins to steadily decline. This condition is known clinically as hypochlorhydria, and it is one of the most undiagnosed and misunderstood issues in adult nutrition today. Your stomach simply loses its fiery edge. So when Brenda ate that expensive organic chicken breast, it wasn't being efficiently unzipped into usable amino acids. It was just sitting in her stomach, heavy and sluggish, causing bloating and fatigue, and eventually passing right through her system largely unused. Because her bloodstream wasn't getting the amino acids it desperately needed from her meals, her body went into a state of triage. It went into survival mode. Her brain essentially looked around and said, "We don't have enough building blocks arriving from the stomach to maintain the heart, the liver, and the immune system, so we need to steal them from somewhere else." And the very first place your body steals from? Your luxury features. It shuts off nutrient delivery to the scalp. Your hair stops growing, enters a resting phase, and begins shedding. Your nails lose their structural integrity and become thin and ridged. Your skin loses its elasticity and starts to sag. You aren't losing your hair or your strength simply because you're getting older. You're losing it because your body is actively scavenging its own protein to survive. But the most alarming part of this entirely preventable cycle isn't just the natural age-related decline of stomach acid itself. It is the seemingly innocent, everyday habits most of us have at the dinner table that are actively destroying whatever precious stomach acid we have left. Think about your dinner table right now and the habits you've built up over a lifetime. Before we get into the specific mistakes you might be making, let's look at exactly what happens inside your body when you swallow a piece of that expensive chicken breast or organic Greek yogurt. In a healthy, youthful digestive tract, the environment inside your stomach is incredibly hostile. The pH level is usually sitting somewhere between 1.5 and 3.0. To put that into perspective, that is the acidity of battery acid. This extreme environment does two critical things. First, it sanitizes your food, neutralizing bacteria and pathogens. Second, and much more importantly for your aging body, this severe acidity wakes up a sleeping digestive enzyme called pepsinogen, transforming it into its active, aggressive form known as pepsin. If protein is the locked zipper, pepsin is the pair of chemical scissors that actually cuts the zipper apart. But if your stomach acid is weak, say, hovering around a pH of 4 or 5, which is incredibly common once we pass the age of 40, pepsin never wakes up. The zipper stays stubbornly locked. That high-quality protein you just chewed and swallowed moves out of your stomach and into your intestines completely unbroken. Because your intestines cannot absorb fully intact protein molecules, that food just sits there, feeding bad gut bacteria instead of feeding your muscles. It ferments, creating gas, bloating, and leaving your cells entirely starved of amino acids. This brings us to the 3 massive warning signs your body sends when this malabsorption is happening to you. We already touched on the first one, your fingernails. I want you to look closely at your thumbnails in a good light. Vertical ridges, technically called onychorexis, are almost always dismissed as just another frustrating part of aging. But your nails are built from a hardened form of keratin. When your body cannot absorb dietary amino acids from the protein you eat, the nail matrix at the base of your finger simply does not have the raw materials to lay down a smooth, strong sheet of keratin. It builds a weak, uneven, fragile structure that splits at the tip the second it hits a hard surface or sits in dishwater too long. The second major sign is hair shedding, specifically what we call diffuse thinning. The hair follicles on your scalp are among the most metabolically active, rapidly dividing cells in your entire body. They demand a massive, constant supply of protein to keep producing thick strands. When you are suffering from low stomach acid and your bloodstream is starved of amino acids, your central nervous system triggers a harsh survival mechanism. It forces an unnatural percentage of your hair out of the active growing phase and prematurely shifts it into the telogen, or resting, phase to conserve energy. A few months later, you run a brush through your hair in the morning and pull out a terrifying amount of strands. You haven't changed your diet, you aren't doing anything wrong, but your hair is fundamentally starving. The third sign is something my patients complain about constantly, a profound, heavy fatigue about 2 hours after eating a meat-heavy meal. If you eat a steak, a heavy pork chop, or even a large chicken salad and suddenly feel like you need to lie down and take a nap, your stomach acid is failing you. When your acid is too weak to dissolve dense animal protein, your stomach responds by simply churning harder. It mechanically grinds and grinds for hours, desperately trying to break the food down. This massive, prolonged muscular effort draws blood flow and energy away from your brain and the rest of your body, leaving you feeling heavy, sluggish, and exhausted. This brings me to a patient I'll call Marcus. Marcus is a 62-year-old from Tampa, Florida. He came to my practice because he was slowly losing muscle mass in his arms and legs, despite the fact that he absolutely loved a good steak dinner and ate red meat several times a week. He couldn't figure out why his muscles were shrinking and why he was struggling with terrible post-meal bloating every single night. When I asked Marcus to walk me through his exact routine at the dinner table, I found the culprit immediately. Marcus was committing what I call the ice water flood. Alongside his steak, Marcus would pour himself a massive 20-ounce glass of ice-cold water, and he would sip it constantly throughout the meal, washing down every other bite. I want you to think about this logically. Your stomach needs to maintain a highly concentrated, fiery acid bath to digest that heavy piece of beef. When you flood your stomach with a massive volume of liquid during a meal, you are severely diluting whatever precious hydrochloric acid you have managed to produce. Furthermore, the ice-cold temperature of the water physically constricts the blood vessels around your stomach lining, slowing down the very cellular activity required to produce more acid. You are literally putting out the fire right when you need it to burn the absolute hottest. Diluting your digestive juices is a rapid way to ensure that expensive steak passes through you without surrendering its nutrients. And there is one more massive trap we need to discuss before I show you the exact daily protocol to fix this. So many of my patients over 50 are on daily antacid medications or proton pump inhibitors because they suffer from chronic heartburn or acid reflux. But here is the great, misunderstood paradox of human digestion. Heartburn is very often caused by low stomach acid, not high stomach acid. When your acid is too weak to digest your food quickly, that food sits in the warm environment of your stomach and begins to ferment. This fermentation creates gas pressure, which pushes upward against the delicate sphincter muscle at the base of your esophagus, carrying acidic vapor with it and causing that terrible burning sensation in your chest. If you take an over-the-counter pill to completely neutralize the last remaining bit of acid you have in an attempt to stop the burning, you are entirely shutting off your ability to break down protein and absorb critical longevity nutrients like vitamin B12. I am never going to tell you to stop your prescribed medication. You should never do that without consulting your physician. But if you have been taking antacids for years and you are losing your hair, seeing ridges in your nails, and losing muscle tone, I want you to ask your doctor or pharmacist this exact question at your next visit. Could my daily antacid medication be preventing me from absorbing my dietary protein and B12? Have that conversation. Bring it out into the open, because it is a critical one for your long-term independence. The good news is that you do not have to just accept this decline. You can absolutely train your digestive system to break down protein efficiently again. Let me show you the simple 3-step absorption protocol I use in my clinic to turn your stomach back into the nutrient-extracting machine it was designed to be. Here is the exact 3-step absorption protocol I use with my patients. It costs almost nothing, it requires no expensive supplements, and you can start doing it at your very next meal. Step 1 is what I call the 15-minute acid prep. If you are about to sit down to a heavy meal, especially one containing dense animal protein like beef, pork, or poultry, we need to prime the pump before the food ever hits your stomach. About 15 minutes before you take your first bite, I want you to drink a small glass of room temperature water mixed with either 1 tablespoon of fresh lemon juice or 1 tablespoon of raw apple cider vinegar. By introducing this mild natural acid into an empty stomach, you are sending a loud biological signal to your digestive system. It essentially rings the alarm bell, prompting your stomach lining to start ramping up its own production of hydrochloric acid and waking up that crucial pepsin enzyme so the chemical scissors are ready and waiting when the protein arrives. Now, a very important clinical warning here. You must drink this through a glass or stainless steel straw to protect the enamel on your teeth from the acid. And if you have an active peptic ulcer, a history of GI bleeding, or severe untreated acid reflux, skip the vinegar and rely on step 2 instead. Step 2 is mechanical breakdown and vagus nerve stimulation. I watch my patients eat, and most of us chew our food 3 or 4 times before swallowing massive, intact chunks of meat. Remember, your stomach does not have teeth. The pepsin in your stomach can only work on the surface area of the food it touches. If you swallow a solid cube of chicken, the acid has to work incredibly hard just to penetrate the outside layer, leaving the center completely undigested. I need you to chew your protein until it is literally the consistency of a paste before you swallow. Along with this mindful chewing, I want you to start your meals with a small handful of bitter greens, like arugula, watercress, or dandelion greens. This isn't just about getting vitamins. The physical sensation of a bitter taste on your tongue directly stimulates your vagus nerve. The vagus nerve acts like a telegraph wire running from your brain down to your gut, and when it registers bitterness, it immediately fires a message to your stomach to release digestive juices. And remember Marcus's mistake. While you are doing this, put the ice water away. If you need a drink to clear your palate, take small sips of room temperature water. Do not flood the engine. Step 3 is strategic protein swapping. If your stomach acid is struggling, stop forcing it to climb Mount Everest every night with a 16-ounce steak. We need to pivot to highly bioavailable proteins that require far less acid to unzip. This is where I heavily lean on eggs for my patients over 40. Eggs are the gold standard for human repair. They contain a complete amino acid profile, and their physical structure is vastly softer and easier for weakened stomach acid to penetrate than a dense muscle meat. When you eat eggs, your body absorbs and utilizes the protein with incredible efficiency. I also highly recommend looking into hydrolyzed collagen peptides. Hydrolyzed simply means the protein zipper has already been partially cut apart into smaller peptide chains in a lab, bypassing your stomach's workload and delivering those building blocks directly to your intestines for rapid absorption. Let's go back to Brenda, the 56-year-old retired teacher from Grand Rapids who was losing her hair and dealing with peeling nails despite eating a high-protein diet. We didn't increase her food intake at all. In fact, she actually started eating slightly less. But we changed how her body received it. Brenda started using the 15-minute lemon water prep before her lunches and dinners. She swapped out her massive dry chicken breasts for softer, bioavailable proteins like eggs and a high-quality hydrolyzed protein powder. She slowed down, chewed her food properly, and completely stopped drinking large glasses of ice water while she ate. Within just a few weeks, that heavy, dragging exhaustion she used to feel after dinner completely lifted. Her stomach wasn't wasting massive amounts of energy churning undigested food anymore. At the 6-week mark, she brushed her hair and finally saw normal, minimal shedding instead of terrifying clumps. And while it takes several months for a new nail to completely grow out, if you looked closely at the base of Brenda's cuticles, the new nail growing in was smooth, pink, and completely free of those brittle vertical ridges. She wasn't aging rapidly. She was just starving on a full stomach, and once we fixed the absorption, her body eagerly went right back to repairing her luxury features. What I want you to understand about your body is that it is incredibly intelligent. It is not broken just because you have passed the age of 40 or 50. It is constantly trying to heal, to rebuild, and to keep you strong, but it can only work with the materials you actually give it access to. When you stop fighting your digestive system and start supporting it with the right environment, the changes can feel almost miraculous. I want to hear what you are changing today. Comment the phrase, starting today, if you are going to try the 15-minute acid prep before your next heavy meal. Comment, asking my doctor if you plan to bring up your stomach acid or your daily antacid medications at your next clinical visit. Or comment, sending this if you know a friend or a family member who has been complaining about thinning hair or fatigue and desperately needs to hear this message. Please take a second to hit the save button so you can easily find this protocol again. And subscribe to the channel for more proactive, clinical nutrition truths that you can actually use. Thank you so much for trusting me with your time, and I will see you in the next video.